And if
Yeah.
there was the odd bit in it, you're not going to get the whole orchestra to redo it again and again, which you would do now. There's our bollocks keeping it. No one's going to notice that gong.
Yeah. That gong.
Bang.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy and it's John, and it is time, that's right, my friend, to dig into some music. So, John, you're going to offer up something for me to go off and listen to. What have you got in the chamber?
So the artist is the Keith Mansfield Orchestra.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
Not a lot of
Never
bells
far
and
from your
whistles
lips, I'm sure.
there.
Um,
Just straight to it. I got it. Keith
yeah.
Mansfield Orchestra. Never heard of them before, at least, that I can think of. What is the name of the track by them you want me to
The
scope
name of
out?
the track is Soul Thing.
Oh, I like that name actually. That's much more creative than the band's name. Well, let me give this soul thing a listen, and I will come back and let you know what I've made of it. It's nice. Yeah, I really am enjoying this so far. For a few different reasons. One, the boom bap beat to start things off instantly got me invested. And then from there we get these lovely horns that kind of pop off and have this like jubilant nature to them, which is also very engaging and is like drawing me in. um, there's this pluckiness to the bass too, as it after the beat kind of shifts from the boom bap, we get kind of this like more hi hat focused beat that joins in, and then in comes that plucky bass that I just mentioned, and this very like slinky set in tone sounding guitar, as it's just punctuating with these very straight chords that are coming in, but they sound so lovely. And for whatever reason, it all is working together, uh, to kind of like lure me in. It just sounds really, really lovely. Let's pull that back a little bit and relive this. It's lovely descending, and then on that last, hit, the drums come in proper there. Keys, bass. And it's good bass. It's like in that moment, the keys and the horns are doing the same thing, or at least it sounds like that to me. Like just a little bit. I'm loving this like descending, ascending, variations that they're popping in here as far as like the run that they're going on, these sort of motifs, and it's again ascending, descending motifs for me are really really engaging. So here I am, just enjoying this thoroughly. So even the I'm gonna pull that back a little bit because it sounds like the drums are gonna do another one of those epic little fills that they've been doing. But I just love how they're like the keys are doing this sort of baritone sounding bit, and then I mean, as they often do, right? But how great it sounds together, hearing those two parts played simultaneously, and how they just commingle together and sound. Yeah. That was so much fun. Oh my god, I loved listening to that. There was something about it that is both cinematic, but also that kind of like lends itself to have been sampled or to be sampled. I'm not sure when this came out, but if it came out before the golden age of hip hop, I can definitely see this being something that was sampled a lot in it. And that is to say, this is a like a boom bap beat, and that is like a favorite among those who were writing, hip hop and rap around that time. So it would have lent itself perfectly to some, let's say, early '90s rap or hip hop for sure. Yeah, then the cinematic thing. I mean, this it sounds like the perfect soundtrack for the introduction of a really important character or a very important scene that was unfolding. It just sounds like it would lend itself perfectly, in my estimation. Yeah, this is just, it was very engaging, very fun. It had this like funky, jazzy nature to it. My only critique was that it was here and gone far too soon. Uh, I wish it would have. I mean, it could have gone on for another 2 minutes, and I would have been perfectly fine with that for sure. I don't think I've ever heard of the Keith Mansfield Orchestra, as I said before, but it's gonna be one of those ones where John's gonna be like, "You may have never heard the name before, but you've probably heard this song and others in X, Y, and Z," and he'll cite all these examples, or you'll have heard them sampled in A, B, and C, which will confirm my suspicions about like how it sounds, but it'll also leave me with a little bit of egg on my face for not pinning down exactly where I've heard this before. But yeah, it has all the makings of something that I would enjoy very much, and lo and behold, I did. So let's get back to John and chop this up a bit more.
Fine time Fontaine, he's back. So you've had a listen to Soul Thing by the Keith Mansfield Orchestra. What do you reckon?
Well, it was a brief but lovely experience. I really, really enjoyed this track, and you probably could have guessed that going into it. It's another one of these really nice instrumentals that you chuck my way. Um, One that begins with this classic boom bap drum beat that is soon accompanied by this jubilant and unified brass section playing an infectious descending motif. And then at the 10-second mark, after a couple of teases on the cymbals, the beat switches up just a little bit to incorporate more hi-hat work. And with this switch up comes the introduction of guitar and bass, the latter of which has this pleasant pluckiness to its movement, while the former possesses an almost slinky sound as it chimes in with these bright chords popping off. Um, Really, really loved the tone of that otherwise simple guitar. In fact, when you compare it to all the other pieces in this track, you could kind of on paper be like dismissive of it. But there's something about the tone of those chords and the way they just chop in at the right time that I just really found like infectious for whatever reason, despite their simplicity. Go ahead.
Very similar to reggae, same thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
The
yeah, it
guitar's
is kind
just
of
doing
like that.
that.
Yeah, you're right. There's this gentle touch to it all that just makes it feel right. And so, yeah, this definitely had that. And emerging in the wake of their entry are these lovely dashes of stabbing keynotes that quickly blossom into these rich lower chords. And the keys continue to shift between the two, as you often do. I mean, it's a two-handed instrument, so you're going to get some highs and some lows. It just, in this case, they sounded so nice together, and they were clearly quite different, and yet together, everything made sense. And I'm thinking, is this the same keyed instrument throughout the entire track? I assume it is. Yeah, is it a Hammond organ?
I think it's a piano, but
Oh, interesting. Okay. I thought I was over here going, I think that's a Hammond organ.
it
But
could be
okay.
a Hammond organ. It could
Okay.
be.
Um, so about the 30 seconds into this whole listening experience, and we begin to think that this sounds like something that could have been sampled in music that I assume would have been released subsequent to this. There is something. It's got this jazzy funkiness to it, right? And we've said this before in previous tracks that we've covered on the channel. Most of them, I think, instrumentals, much like this. That the between the horn section, which a lot of those tracks had, and in this one in particular, this boom bap drum beat, which is the quintessential drum beat of choice by all rap artists in the golden era of rap. It screams to me this needs to be sampled in hip hop if it hasn't yet been. So I'm definitely getting between the horn action and those drums, like this screams this needs to find a place in a home that is hip hop. So around the 40-second mark, the keys then switch things up and begin to do this ascending motif. And if my memory serves me, this continues for about 20 seconds or so before giving way to this killer bit of drum work, during which the snare and some of the other, skins get hit on with more rapidity and harder than the pretty girl at the end of the bar. There is a lot of movement on these drums, and it does this often, and I enjoy it quite a bit. The horns then join in, and again, they play this lovely motif as the bass rolls beneath before then it gives way to more of what I think is a Hammond organ, but I'm now beginning to question it. Again, it's a lovely pattern that incorporates higher notation and more of those baritone chords in equal parts. And this gives way to more of the snare rattling drum work, which ushers back in those wonderful horn blasts. And there's this baton passing, hot potato tossing, whatever, silly metaphor or allegory you want to use, but there's this like back and forth between the instruments, and in that there's also this switching from ascending to descending motifs throughout it as well, which I don't know what it is. I know that we've talked about this as dating as far back as Into the Music, but there's something about ascending and descending bits in music that are just very engaging and infectious. I think because steps and stairs are a lot like that. You know, you're either going up or you're going down. I don't know what it is, but there's something that dates back to like the dawn of time where you go up or you go down, and it just resonates with me.
Yes, I think from Into the Music, Greg was particularly fond of descending.
Yeah.
And I think I gave him two songs which were ascending just to blow his mind.
Yes, I knew that there was some discussion around this sort the I both or either of those motifs, and I we have it again here, and yeah,
Yeah.
I'm loving it. So this gives the snare roll that then gives way to the horn motif, and this rinses and repeats a couple times until the song eventually kind of fades to completion. So yeah, this is a lot of fun. My only gripe is that it was like less than 3.5 minutes, and if it went to 5 minutes or 5.5, I would have been, I would have felt more satiated. But yeah, it was. I mean, on top of feeling like it was something that would be ripe for sampling, like I had mentioned, it also has this cinematic feel to it as well. Particularly again with that, there's something about that horn motif, like it's heralding something. So it to me, it sounds like it's like here's an important character, or this is that really important scene that everything has led up to. So there's a bit of that going on as well. But I don't know. I could be completely talking out of my ass here. Or you're going to tell me, you fool, you have heard of this band. They're sampled in this, and they've been in these movies and television shows. And I'm like, oh, of course. So it sounds like something I should be familiar with. It sounds like something that should have been sampled and featured in cinema. And yet I can't put my finger on any of those possibilities exactly. Like I can't cite any examples. So tell me where I'm right. Tell me where I'm wrong. More importantly, tell me more about the Keith Mansfield Orchestra and the song Soul Thing.
Okay. Yeah. This came about really quite oddly. So I do not remember what show it was, but there's a radio channel in the UK, a digital radio channel called BBC Four Extra, and that is mainly spoken word. There's a lot of recycled, very old radio shows, comedy and drama and stuff. And there was one, it was like a half-boiled detective fiction set around the 70s or something. And the theme tune was awesome. It was this sort of bombastic blast, it was amazing. And I had to look it up and it said Keith Mansfield Orchestra. So I then dug it up and I got this, and then this track's on the album. It turns out that I know the works of Keith Mansfield quite well, but I didn't know that I knew. So,
Okay. So now I don't feel bad at all because if it's the same for me, I can at least take solace in the fact you had
uh,
the same experience.
well, definitely in the UK, pretty much everybody of a certain age will know his stuff.
Okay.
And you'll probably know some of the other bits that's been done. So, Keith Mansfield, born in 1940 in Slough. He's a British composer and arranger, and he's known for his creation of prominent television theme tunes. So his works include The Young Scene. These are all like original titles. That was the original 1968 theme to The Big Match, which was a TV program, football program live. Another tune he did was called Light and Tuneful, which is the opening theme for BBC's coverage of the Wimbledon Tennis Championships,
Oh.
which every person who of a certain age will know. Another track called World Champion, which is the closing theme for NBC's coverage of the same tournament, and World Series, which is used for the BBC athletics coverage. So a lot of sports stuff he's got covered. One of his library music recordings called Teenage Carnival was used as a theme tune for the 1960s ITV children's TV series Freewheelers. He's really imaginative on his titles. He has composed film scores for British films such as Loot, Taste of Excitement, and the Western Three Bullets for a Long Gun, all in 1970-71. He also scored the startup and shutdown themes for Granada Television in 1978, which ran for 10 years until they switched to a 24-hour television. So you used to have this like shut down at the end of the night, national anthem, and a little tune to greet you, see you on your way. His greatest work, in my humble opinion, is the theme tune to the much-loved BBC sports programme on a Saturday called Grandstand. Widely considered one of the greatest and most iconic television theme tunes in British broadcasting history. It was introduced to the flagship Saturday sports programme in 1975, and the track replaced a load of older tunes, and it served as the nation's weekly call to the sofa until the show was retired in 2007. I think around 2003 or something, they remixed it. They put in like a bit of a beat and did and the amount of complaints they got, it only ran for 3 weeks and then they went back to the old one. It didn't work. So I absolutely adore it. And yeah, it's one of my favorite tunes. If I had Desert Island Discs, where you pick 8 tracks, Theme from Grandstand would be one of them, 100%. Mansfield is perhaps best known by American audiences as the composer of the tune Funky Fanfare, which was used for underscoring in NFL film productions and the Astro Data series of snipes produced by the National Screen Service in the late 60s. So if you took the track Funky Fanfare and you switched up most of the brass and replaced it with a rollicking piano stroke keyboard part, you have the British version of the song called Soul Thing, which is what you just listened to. Okay. So the American version, as it were, doesn't have that keyboard, piano, organ at all, which is really weird. Still a great song. So Soul Thing is known as the absolute holy grail of 1960s UK groove instrumentation. Little write-up here. Track kicks off with this is a really enthusiastic write-up, so I put it in. The track kicks off an epic, crisp, open drum break. There's a legendary sequence that immediately locks in a tight 60s library groove. Searing ultra-sharp trumpet fanfares punctuate the rhythm section, and the horns drive an immediate punch of cinematic adrenaline and pure swagger. Now, Quentin Tarantino famously repurposed the composition, and he used it as the retro drive-in cinema Our Next Attraction intro theme. And you can hear this in both the Kill Bill and Death Proof. Both films have this tune in it. Okay. The American version, the Funky Fanfare, so without, as I say. The drum break and horn loop became hip-hop production folklore. Most famously utilized by Danger Mouse and MF Doom. They turned it into the bedrock track Old School on the Danger Doom album.
Okay. We probably talked about this, but I know you Danger Mouse, you know some stuff. MF Doom, where do you stand on the Doomster?
I have got his stuff. I have listened to it. I am not like hugely familiar with it. It didn't stick.
Okay, that's interesting.
I'm open to listen to it again.
Okay, great, because they're very artsy rappers, both of those. Hip hop, artists, I should say.
Yeah. So in the 60s and 70s, Mansfield was a significant figure in the UK library music scene and recorded many materials for production company KPM. It kind of started off as a very average sort of library music. So you want to get a music to do with a sports theme or, whatever. And him and a couple of colleagues elevated it to become the world's premier library music company. Mm-hmm. His work had been sampled also, not just Danger Mouse and MF Doom, but on tracks such as Run by Niles Barclay, and on the another Danger Doom track, Space Hose, sampled by Madlib and Fatboy Slim on the track Pug to Fuck as well. Okay. He was also an arranger and conductor for several tracks on Dusty Springfield's 1968 album, Dusty Definitely. Interestingly, Mansfield was also one of the collaborators of an album, Carnaby Street Pop Orchestra, in 1969. Now, the album did not become famous, but his song, Hyde Park, was used as the opening theme of the Brazilian sports program, Esporte Espetacular, which I guess is their version of Grandstand. Mm-hmm. And it's been used since 1977. The song was soon associated with all sports in Brazil and was used as the theme song of the F1 racer Ayrton Senna. It was much beloved in Brazil, as you imagine. The Sport Spectacular stopped using the song in the 80s, but it came back in 1994. So even though Hyde Park was a success, Mansfield was unknown in Brazil for many years due to a printing error on the LP record that wrongly stated his name and the name of the song. First time he heard about his popularity was in the 1990s. A friend of his was approached by a Brazilian reporter for an interview, and he explained that Mansfield was actually the composer, but the story was quickly forgotten until 2009, when Mansfield discovered by chance that his song was being used on YouTube videos created by the Brazilian community, and he realized that it's mega popular.
No,
There's a nice little, sorry.
just to follow up on everything you just said. One, this guy sounds like he could have just done this writing, scoring songs for sports television shows, and done wildly well for himself. Except because I'm thinking, damn, he's spanning 3 continents. He's done it in Europe, North America, and South America. But was he receiving the proper residuals for the South American stuff in Brazil with all this bullshit surrounding the proper
No,
name and
who knows? I doubt it. I mean,
yeah, it
because
seems like it would.
these albums. I mean, this one's a really odd one. It's the only one that's filed under the Keith Mansfield Orchestra, and then others are just filed under Keith Mansfield.
Yeah.
He did stuff under his own name or under a project name. There was a lot of albums that were sort of basically almost elevated music, sort of cover versions of songs.
Uh-huh.
And others that are really good as well and originals. But there's a really nice little article from the Guardian on KPM Music, the firm we work for, and they speak to him. So he said his first opening thing he said was there was no pressure to have a hit record. We were making music that people might find useful, and some of that would be really unusual music, strange time signatures or key changes. If you got picked up, well, that was a bonus. And if it lasted 35 years, wonderful. Who could have ever expected that? So Mansfield was one of several young musicians who helped reinvent KPM, perhaps the most famous of all library labels. He was there during its golden period from 1966 to 73, when, energized by a revolution sweeping British pop music, KPM went from being slightly old-fashioned second division library to the world's premier destination for production music. The music Mansfield composed still sounds fresh, a mixture of pop, jazz, funk, big band, and orchestral work, played with a soulful looseness that's impossible to imitate without access to top musicians playing live. Despite their considerable talents, all the people at KPM had no idea the songs they were composing at the time would end up soundtracking the lives of future generations. Mansfield said he first became aware of this when his 13-year-old daughter came home from school and asked if he'd written Grandstand. Quote, I thought it was going to be some wind-up, but she said, all my friends think it's a wonderful tune. I realised that it had gone somewhere else. It's part of their growing up now. The reason why songs have stood the test of time is simple. They're clever pieces of music. Grandstand transitions gracefully from pop triads to big band chords without the listener detecting a shift. For instance, whereas Wimbledon is constantly changing key, but none of these ideas were brought to the table with the sporting events in mind. Rather, when asked to provide a theme tune for the Grandstand, the program makers decided they didn't like any of the tracks in KPM's archive that were labelled sports tunes, and they went for Grandstand. This one was completely different. And Mansfield said, I thought, why have they chosen that? That's not sports music. But they saw in it things I didn't. They saw the fun in it, and they saw it was quite comedian-like. It could work for a small event or a big event too. Writer continues, these songs were not long projects that had been in the works for months. Rather, they were bashed out 6 at a time during a frantic 3.5-hour sessions. Nobody knew at the time that some would go on to be so iconic. As Mansfield records, all this music flying past people, all that energy, and the whole orchestra in the studio at the same time. You had little time and very little control. There was no overwriting. Any mistakes went in. That's it. It's just real fascinating, the thing you don't really think about. And I think back then as well, relatively cheap. You get a whole orchestra and play live, do your tune, record it, 8-track or whatever, and then bang, done. And if
Yeah.
there was the odd bit in it, you're not going to get the whole orchestra to redo it again and again, which you would do now. There's our bollocks, keep it in. No one's going to notice that gong.
Yeah. That song.
Bang.
You're not even
Yeah, so
featuring the song. What the fuck are you doing hitting the gong?
it just sounds like tremendous fun if you're able to write music, to write all this stuff. Do a theme tune to, a play for today, or, the news or something. It'd be brilliant,
Yeah.
There used to be some really interesting theme tunes in this country, some amazing ones. And there was a bit of nostalgia that hit in the, I say, early 90s. There was loads of CDs that came out with theme tunes to all sorts of things, not just like the sports shows, whatever, but Dave Allen's show and the Two Ronnies theme tune, all sorts of stuff. And they all sound, a lot of them had that sort of CD 70s sound of like they belonged in Soho or in a sort of slightly light, porno film or something. And lots of heavy sort of like wild guitar or saxophone and stuff like
Yeah, yeah.
that. Fantastic. Some really cool stuff.
That's great.
So
And
yeah.
it's funny because it makes me I didn't think that we were going to have this conversation, but over here NFL Films for decades has released all of these highlights through the, 50s, 60s, 70s leading. It's all been curated, really well. But there's this sound, there's this all these songs that are recycled as background music for this old footage, and it's tubas, of course, right? Big rumbling guys going downfield in shitty weather and grainy film, and all these other, orchestral instruments or pit instruments are playing, and they're all capturing the mood of what's unfolding on film. And it just reminds me that it's like this guy and his output is like the British version of those NFL films for us.
Exactly.
Not the same cut from the same musical cloth, but the same idea of like,
Same function, yeah.
yeah, of functionality, absolutely. So yeah, it's just really interesting. That's funny. I wasn't going to think of NFL films until you informed me of all this bio information.
Cool. So, I grabbed this a while back, but I thought, yeah, this is definitely one to add to
Yeah,
our collection here on the channel.
yeah,
It's
that's
a lot of
great.
fun. Right. I shall wrap things up. Thanks for listening to Sandy.
Thank you.
Um, Folks out there, please tell us what you think. If you like this, if you like a bit of the soul thing, please slap your meaty paws down on the like button and give it some love. And please drop some comments. We'd love to hear what you think about this. Perhaps some of you are familiar with Keith Mansfield's work. Um, Obviously Grandstand and Wimbledon, and the Athletics and all sorts of stuff. And there's other great tunes as well. I bet someone's going to mention Ski Sunday, but there you go. So yeah, let's hear what you have to say. I'm looking forward to it. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We really appreciate everybody who does support the channel. So pick up your kayak and join in. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you in the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.